Hello and welcome. February 2026 Personal Wealth Strategies webinar, where we try to bring you the best topics from a variety of investment related, non-investment related, education based, looking to better serve you, our clients, and those out there that are interested in this stuff. And today we have a very, very special guest, and we're looking to have this conversation around the sandwich generation. And so we wanted to, make sure because it becomes challenging to when you're stuck in the middle of caring for those that are aging while at the same time caring for those that are younger behind you. And I couldn't speak necessarily to that topic. And so I wanted to bring in an expert that could speak to it. And so today we have Patty Househair, and she has spent more than 20 years helping people make confident decisions about their money, especially when it comes to building reliable income sources and peace of mind in retirement, because it's not only about the financial aspect of things. So she is the vice president of sales strategy at Athene, one of the nation's leading retirement services firm. She's known for making complex financial topics clear, practical, and approachable. But beyond the professional credentials, here's a fun fact that says a lot about her real world experience. She and her husband have raised five daughters, and this year in 2026, three of them are getting married. Now, all of the marriages are going to be here in the US, but then you have bachelorette parties and different things and festivities. But three weddings in 1 year for three of your daughters. That tells you a thing or two about planning priorities, staying calm when life gets busy and potentially a little expensive. But please join me in welcoming Patty Househair. Thanks so much, Patty.
Great. Thank you so much, Justin. I really I appreciate that. And thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us in this very important topic around caregiving for the ones we loved. So I'm going to start. I think we all probably know Catherine Zeta-Jones, Jodie Foster, Samuel L. Jackson. But what you might not know is they're all part of the sandwich generation. Jodie Foster was a caregiver to her mother who had Alzheimer's while also raising her own children. She said she cherished the role. Samuel L. Jackson had six people in his family diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for research. And Catherine Zeta-Jones is a caregiver to her husband, Michael Douglas, while also working to launch their children. So it's everywhere, caring for loved ones. And probably the first thing you might say to me is, Patty, well, they're part of the ultra high net worth and they've got the resources for aides and help and the best doctors and whatnot. And you're right, it's probably not having an impact on their retirement. But what I would say is most of us really are not in that situation. But net worth aside, I think most caregivers would say that in spite of all of the chaos, they wouldn't have it any other way. They feel like they need to make everybody happy all the time. Do I help my parents with grocery shopping or my kids with college education? I'm almost thinking, or college applications, I'm almost thinking it should be more like a panini, smushed, heated, and somehow always expected to be Instagram ready. So I'm guessing that those of you here on the call today are giving some type of care to loved ones and are sandwiched yourself. And the first thing I would say is you are heroes, absolute heroes here, and pat yourself on the back. You're sort of like human Spanx, right? Keeping it all together, smoothing out the chaos, and somehow keeping your family from busting out at the seams. The first thing I want you to know is you're not alone. In fact, nearly one in four people today, or adults today in this country, are part of the sandwich generation. So not just caring for children or parents, but both. And if you think about it, life expectancies are going up, so we're living longer on the high end. And on the low end, or our children, they're taking a little bit longer to launch these days. So it used to be that baby boomers were really sort of sandwiched, but baby boomers have sort of aged out a bit. And now it's really more Gen X and millennials. In fact, good to know that half of, or more than half of those sandwiched are really between the ages of 40, about 40 and 50. And interesting, by 2034, the number of Americans over the age of 65 will actually be greater than the number of children under the age of 18. So we are clearly an aging society here. So what I wanted to do, just in an effort to just offer some information, is hit on why financial planning is really so critical for those that are in the sandwich generation. It's all a plan so that you can live out what your life aspirations are. And there's some research I want to share with you that just points to the fact that, again, you are not alone. And then, most importantly, what can you do to help loved ones really, in your life, and what resources are available? So I'd like you to be comfortable with the research we did. At Athene, we do a ton of research and we share them with folks like Justin and his team. And we oftentimes will use Harris Poll. So I want you to feel good about that. We actually did research in 2023, and then just 2 years later did research again. In just those 2 short years, you can see an incredible trend. But this is the group that we looked at between the ages of 40, 59, supporting again on both sides, and you can see the sample size here. So let's talk about why financial planning is so critical. Well, 73%, so think about it, really 3 out of 4 people that we surveyed, or Harris Poll surveyed, said that supporting family has had an impact, a significant impact on their own retirement goals. And some other stats here, 44% say that they're reducing expenses to be able to accommodate family members. 34% say that they're going to retire later than they expected. 22% are telling us they're actually using retirement assets to help family members. And 9% say, hey, I'm just going to keep working, not going to retire. And some folks, like the co-president of our company at Athene, Mike Downing, has been quoted saying that this is really sort of the second wave of America's retirement crisis. I mean, the first is really, many of our parents had pensions and whatnot. Now, really funding our own retirement is on us. And this caregiving responsibility that so many are taking on is having an impact. So you might say to me, or be thinking right about now, Patty, okay, so we've always had caregivers, but the number of or caregivers has really actually quadrupled over the last 50 years. So what's different about today? Well, we have more caregivers, but more than that, we don't have the pensions like our parents had. Funding retirement is through 401ks, anything we can save, Social Security. Pretty much that responsibility is now on us. So that's definitely different. And I don't have to tell you about rising healthcare costs, but what you might be interested in knowing is the increase that we saw in 2025 was the greatest increase in cost, deductibles, premiums that we've seen in more than 15 years. Inflation, market volatility has sort of become the norm. We're getting more accustomed to it. It's there. But the last two I want to focus on a little bit more. We've got fewer stay-at-home caregivers. So think about it. It used to be, in my family, I was one of 5 children. And my mother was able to raise us and work from home for our family. And my father was the one who was earning an income and working outside of the home. Today, that's very difficult. Most families have 2 people working, so something needs to give. And the last year, I want to talk about boomerang kids. And those are the kids that, we support them, we raise them, we launch them. And oftentimes now they're coming back, and for a variety of reasons. In fact, if you think about it today, more than 1 in 3 young adults between the ages of 18 and 34 are living with their parents. And what you're seeing here on the screen is a 20-year difference. So that light blue line represents 20 years ago, or we'll call it 2002. The darker blue line is just the change we've seen in 20 years. And as you can see, there's an increase in adult children coming back home. And again, for a variety of reasons, you've got college debt that they're carrying, cost of housing, transportation is just not always affordable, and it's almost like the costs are rising faster than wages. So these are some interesting stats. As I mentioned to you, in 2023, we did research, and then just 2 years later, 2025, we compared that research. And interesting, 58% of the sandwich generation says that they have at least one adult child living at home. In 2025, that jumped to 69%. 76% in 2023 said that they're financially supporting their adult children, and that rose to 96% today, just 2 years later. And here, 50% of adults are actually managing their children's debt, either a portion or all of it. Today, that's jumped to 90 or 79%. And in the research we did, 9 out of 10 of the respondents said that working with a financial professional, having a plan has really had a tremendous impact on their own financial future. And they also went on to say, those surveyed, that having a plan, working with a professional, it puts their retirement plan on track, makes them feel better about giving or supporting their children with college tuition, more confident about helping adults and older relatives, and more comfortable managing or helping with some of their children's debt. So I really want to get into how you can support your loved ones and what resources are out there available to you. And I really want to hit on 5 areas. So first, in having conversations about budgeting and finances, good to raise those conversations with both parents as well as adult or children. And when you have those conversations, it's important that you're doing it at the right time. It doesn't want to just be off the cuff. You want to have some sort of plan. And as you begin those conversations with both, you're going to want to lead with care and concern. You know, of course, your love for them and desire to help. And I've scripted a few ideas for you here. If you were hypothetically having a conversation with your parents or elderly parents, you might say something like, you know, you've always taken care of us, and now I want to help you. Can we talk about your day-to-day expenses? This way we can make sure your income is enough to cover those expenses. Can we talk about future planning? This way you can feel confident that your wishes are protected and carried out. So raising the conversation, putting it out there is just going to help you make sure that your parents' plan is in order. And talking to adult children, a great idea or tip here is to share your own experiences. And I know I do this all the time with my girls. Share what's worked well, share mistakes that I've made and learned from. So some ideas around there. When I was younger, I remember thinking that managing my finances was really complicated. Later, I realized that it all starts with being able to save. I can help you look at your monthly income and your expenses, and maybe together we can set some savings goals for you. So just a couple ideas about how to get started, but most important, those conversations, you want to have them at the right time and be prepared for them. And just some general tips, keep it simple, practical, and gentle, right? So we don't want it, we want it to be soft and again, loving and caring. And make it ongoing. It's not a one-time thing. And some progress, maybe your grown child has reached some savings goals, celebrate that progress. Always staying focused on the goals. And a great tip for all of us in all relationships everywhere is to really listen, active listening. There's a fabulous book out there I recommend, and it's by Eckhart Tolle, and it's called The Power of Now. And it's all about being present. And I think with relationships with loved ones, this can be very powerful when we really listen, we read body language, and we take that all in.
And Patty, if I could just hop in right here on that topic, because
Yes.
I know we're going to be covering a couple things, but in terms
Yeah.
of starting that conversation, especially with your parents as well, is your parents, they have always cared for you and they want to care for you, and they in general don't like the idea of transitioning it to being cared for. And
Yeah.
obviously there's a concern there for that. So one of the things that I've recommended people use as well, let's say we're talking about something like estate planning, because
Yeah.
obviously that's something critical that they need to have in line if they were to pass away. Like, what do they have set up? And rather than to ask them about it and talk to them about it, tap into their want to help you. And so bringing up the conversation. So if I were talking to
Mhm.
my parents from my perspective to say, hey, I've got kids now. I'm looking at, setting up my, estate planning and my documents. And I'm curious, like, who have you used for that? Should I be talking with them? And then that's an easy way to open up the conversation because now it's not about them, it's about you. But obviously, they're going to be thinking about themselves in that moment too. And then you're going to find out real quick if they haven't worked with anybody because they're not going to have anybody to give to you. So that's just one thought. Make it about yourself, and then they'll see how it relates to them.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Justin. That is a really, really good idea. I absolutely love it. Thank you. These here on the screen are the areas where expenses are typically greater for those sandwiched or those caregiving. And this is just an astronomical number, but do you know the average spend per month for those in the sandwich generation is over $7,000? So, these are some of the expenses that you might see increase. You also may not know, but there are a number of resources out there. Obviously, Justin and your team are just a fabulous resource. Some additional resources for you here are on the screen. A couple I would point to. Alzheimer.gov is fabulous. My father suffered from Alzheimer's, and that was a tremendous information on the website there. National Institutes on Aging, Medicare. Medline Plus is all about medications and the effects those medications have. So there's some definite resources here. Mental health and addiction resources. This one you see here on the screen is very valuable. And some more. Meals on Wheels is an organization that is expanding everywhere, which is just amazing. National Council on Aging, their Family Caregiver Alliance. These are some really good resources that you can pull up and their websites and see what is available for you. And there are also local resources right around you. One of the things, stats I read recently that sort of freaked me out a little bit was that depression rates go up by 40% when people retire. And a lot of it has to do with not having the socialization. And when one loses a spouse, it is incredibly difficult. And some of that isolation can be very, very challenging. There are senior centers, community centers that have activities for seniors. even seniors that need more help. There are adult daycare services, and both really allow for interaction. Meal programs available. In fact, your local churches have a lot of programs for seniors that maybe some of your loved ones could get involved with. I mean, I think we see when people get or interact with others, they absolutely perk up. There are also local cleaning, yard work services in your local communities that could be very helpful. And when we think about launching our adult children, yes, sometimes they get a little bit lost. It is a different world, I think, than when we were heading out on our own, starting our lives. And there are resources around there. There are college career professionals in your communities that if you just get on either Chat GPT or Google or whatever's comfortable for you and look for some of those local professionals. There are life coaches. Local colleges have a number of support folks. In fact, if your child did graduate from college, there are usually resources around helping them get placed that are available to them, and most of them don't end after any specific time. And mental health counselors are in your communities. These are all professionals that can really help you work with your kids. And, it was interesting when we did our research of the sandwich generation, and what came back was a really strong desire from parents to help educate their adult children. And I thought I'd point out just basic help that they said that their kids are not getting in either high school or college. And that would be help with opening up just basic savings and checking accounts, understanding how credit works, debit, paying with debit cards versus credit cards, really just encouraging them to work and have a steady flow of work and income, understanding just how to what to be spending money on, what you could be saving money on. There's a lot of things that Gen X and millennials and Gen Z tend to have or tend to be spending money on that maybe we didn't, that they could cut out and save. Basic just budgeting in general. So raising those conversations with your kids around those topics be very helpful. And I'm going to kind of wrap up here and turn it back to you, Justin, in a minute. I can't tell you how important it is to just put some stuff down in writing. I mean, we made deals with our kids. We will pay for your college tuition. You, in turn, will pay for your room and board or your spending money. You'll maintain a 3.0 GPA. Upon graduation, you can live at our home rent-free for 12 months. And after that, we would expect you to have saved enough money to be able to create your own future, move out. So these are deals that we make with our kids in particular. And I think it's important to put them down in writing with timelines, maybe even put signatures on them. However you want to handle it, and then coming back and revisiting those plans. People would call it, of course, having skin in the game. So with that, as I wrap up here today with you all, again, I want to thank you for joining. Justin, I'll turn it back to you. But I would say the most important thing is with anything in life, any challenge, and being a caregiver and being sandwiched are tremendous challenges that we all face. The best thing to do is tackle those challenges head on, recognize them, go at them with a plan, and have conversations with your loved ones at the right time, both ways. Identify what those caregiving expenses are, recognize what impact they might have on your own retirement, and just providing inspiration to everyone is really important. And sometimes that's hard when you're dragged or being tested, your endurance is being tested. So listen, at the end of the day, your retirement is important. You've worked hard to get there, you've earned it, and please prioritize that.
Mm. Yeah.
So with that, Justin, I'm going to stop sharing, come back on the screen, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Patty. And clearly, this is the start of the conversation. We can't solve everything in just, 20, 25 minutes here. But, if you felt drawn to this conversation, want to dive deeper into some of these solutions, some of these conversations, definitely feel free to get on our website, personalwealthstrategies.com, book a conversation with us, and we'll be able to dive into that more with you on a personal basis. We do have a couple minutes here for Q&A, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop it in. We did get one post in here that says, is it possibly better to assist my child in paying off their student loans if I can get them out on their own quicker, which would then probably decrease their monthly expenses ongoing because they're out of the house and on their own. Patty, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and I'll ask you to weigh in too, Justin. It's really a personal decision. I have friends and family members who have done that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, look, it's your life, and you want to be able to enjoy that in your home and not be always providing care. So there might be an opportunity to do that. Helping with some debt, offering even an interest-free loan. So maybe you are offering something, but there's an agreement about being paid back at some time. I mean, look, end goal, which we know, is to launch our children so that they can be financially independent on their own. So sometimes offering some type of loan, you're creating that responsibility of paying back. So just another thought, there's nothing wrong with it. It's okay. It's a personal decision. Just always think in your mind, you always want skin in the game because when we have skin in the game, we're more likely, they're going to be a part of it. If something is handed to you, sometimes it's easy to forget and, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
I
thank you
think
for that
that's
question.
yeah, I think that's the exact point there, Patty. We want to make sure anytime we're talking about helping adult children, obviously we want to care for our children when they need the care, but then once they make that transition to adulthood, hopefully we've done a good enough job. I'm speaking as a parent, to train them up, and any help that we do give to adult children, we want to make sure that it's a hand up and not a hand out,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
once they start to feel the handouts and once they start to feel dependent on that, they don't feel good themselves. And there's tons of studies, and especially with all what's going on with, anxiety and depression, and it's going to suck in the short term for sure to quote unquote cut them off or to restrict, what you've been giving to them. But I promise you that they need that in those circumstances because if they don't, they're going to look very, very poorly on themselves if they have to rely on their parents consistently for money. And so that's just like one very clear thing when we talk about helping adult children is that we don't want to continue to, help them by giving them it. Clearly we don't help drug addicts by giving them drugs. So there has to be something there where we need to make sure it's going to truly benefit them in the long run, not just in the short run by paying off some debt in the short term. So those are my general thoughts on it, and we can dive deeper into that, specific question at a future client meeting, or feel free to book a conversation, and we'll be able to have that
I
there.
couldn't agree with you more, Justin.
Awesome.
Good.
One final question here. We'll wrap up. When is it best to bring up long-term care to a parent and long-term care insurance and covering the cost of that? Patty, thoughts?
Yeah, you probably have your own thoughts too, Justin. I think a good time to be purchasing, I just actually got long-term care, my husband and I, a couple of years ago. I think 60 is probably a good time for me. I felt good about that, but we never know what life is going to bring, and there are people that believe it should be sooner. It is an absolute, I mean, I can't recall now or if I covered that in the slide. That was the number one topic from our survey, and I might have taken it out of what the sandwich generation wanted to talk about with you, Justin. So tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a conversation that needs to be had because we work with all generations, and so we'll have the conversation with those that are of of long-term age, and having the conversation about how they're going to cover the costs, what they have in place, and then a very popular answer is that oh the kids they'll be able to take care of us, we'll be able to move in, they'll be able to come over, and so you in the sandwich generation may be part of the plan and not even know it. And so you have to have that conversation because if part of the plan is for you to help, financially or physically in that situation, and you don't have that built into your plan, now we've got a problem. And so you need to be on the same page. So it's a broader conversation than just the long-term care aspect of it, but that definitely plays into a consideration about not only how's it going to get paid for, but who is going to actually be providing that care as well. Because a lot of the plan is to stay in the home, but do you bring somebody in? Do you have a relative come? There's all those conversations that need to be had, and it's, too much to cover on a 2-minute conversation. But, the key is you have to be on the same page.
Yeah. And, Justin, I would add to this, long-term care got a bad rap years ago. There were firms out there where the premiums kept, rising. They became unaffordable. What I would point out is there are a number of different ways that you can go about it. It is not the old long-term care, cost a fortune situation anymore. There are a number of different vehicles that you can utilize to leverage your own assets in some places to pay for care. So there are different ways to go about it. So if you've got these ideas in your head about some of those old policies that maybe even your parents might have had or people get that out of your head because today it's a different world and the strategies are so much better. And like I said, my husband and I just a couple years ago got ourselves set up, and there's a confidence that goes with it. There's a feel good about it. So
Yeah.
great question. Thank you for raising that one.
Well, awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions coming in. We are a little bit past time, but thank you so much, Patty. Thank you again, Nick, as well, who I didn't introduce, but he's also from Athene, helped to organize the whole thing. So thank you for coming out, and we will see you next month.
Great.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks.